Hello, Avinash Tiwary. Welcome to Galattaplus. So happy to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.
I'm just going to go back to the little conversation we were having while they were setting up. And so you don't live in Andheri,
I
like
don't.
most stars do. You live in Wadala.
Yeah.
And that's because,
That's because my father was staying there, and I've been brought up there. I did my schooling close to Vadala, and then there was a point where I had to choose whether I should shift or not. And I was buying a house, and I eventually chose to buy it there because one, I had grown up there. Secondly, I just felt that somewhere, and it's my belief. I might be absolutely wrong about it, but I believe that it took me 15 years to really break through to get an opportunity to do a film. And that's a long wait. It needs a lot of endurance and patience. And I think I could keep myself sane through that period was only because I kept myself away from Andheri. Because the moment I would come in here, there were these forces that would make me feel that I'm not enough and I needed to be something else and do something else. And then get back home, have that 1 hour, 2 hours of traveling back home where you just kind of release all of this out, get back home, walk in as their son rather than Avinash Tiwary who was struggling his way out in Andheri.
what forces, as in, like, you mean the film forces?
I mean, when you start off, you don't know anyone. You keep going for auditions and you're rejected. You just start feeling that you're not good enough. You don't have it in you, and there are no support structure around which will say, oh, you know what, hai tere andar. It's there in you, and you just need to wait it out. So the only thing that for me kept me going was the constant noise in my head, which would say that you're good enough, you're good enough, you're good enough. And I'm a strong believer in talking to your own self and motivating your own self. That's what's kept me going until now. And for that, you need a certain isolation from the center. I think that's what happened. I would go back home rather than Andheri, where you do 2 hours of activity and then you're wondering what to do when you don't have work. And the only thing then left is chilling with your friends, sitting down, and then you can develop a list of vices, which I did, but because I would stay with my parents, it kind of kept me sane, controlled. Yes.
Right. Actually, this is sounding a bit like something from Luck by Chance.
Well, it is.
You know, like that when Farhan is a struggling actor and the friends that he's staying with, they kind of keep feeding his head with, I think, a bit of negative energy.
Yeah, but I think it's a very, very difficult world here. I constantly keep saying this. I keep saying this that IS examination is one of the most difficult competitions in this country, but there are hundreds of IS selections every year. And I keep asking this to my family because I'm from Bihar. There are a lot of IS officers that come through Bihar. I keep asking this question to my family. I said, पिछले 5 सालों में, tell me 5 names that you who are outside the industry have gotten an opportunity to be an actor in this industry.
Right.
And you realize how difficult this industry is, this world is, to break through into it, to be able to maintain your talent, keep growing, evolving with your skill set, and then eventually to get a breakthrough. It's a rarity, and which is why it's so difficult.
Well, congratulations, because that
Thank you.
self motivation clearly worked. But you were always convinced that there was talent inside you.
No, I made myself believe it, very honestly.
Okay.
It's just something at the start of my engineering. I loved physics and I wanted to study that. Eventually took up engineering and I started doing that. And somewhere, because I came from a sheltered life, I probably, when I was staying in a hostel, was left to my own self and realized that maybe there's something more to me. Again, a conversation just by myself. Uh, and this is embarrassing because I felt that I could act because I could cry on cue. That was my understanding of acting. And I thought, because I'm good at this is what I should do. This is one thing I truly believe in, that we've been told that you should do what you love. I believe as a profession you should do what you're good at. You can keep doing what you love all your life, but as a profession you should choose what you're good at. And I thought I'm good at acting, and then I thought I'll train myself. So I left engineering and started training myself, and that's how it started. Just that belief that okay, I am good at it, and then I keep training myself, and I'll become what I want to eventually, slowly and steadily. Yeah.
It's nice that your belief in yourself that you were a good actor actually turned out to be true, because you are a good actor and now you proved it with a bunch of movies. Whereas I would imagine that there are quite a few people out there that, I wouldn't use the word delusional, but maybe they think they can do it, but they're not able to do it. or for whatever reason?
First of all, thank you. Baradwaj Rangan has just complimented me, told me that I am a talented actor. That works great.
I told you this in the reviews. I mean, yeah.
So I think, I mean, there is no other way out of reality check than going and doing your work. I think though I had limited opportunities initially, I still had a lot of people backing me up. Every time I worked, they made me feel that I'm good.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Right.
Right from my film schools, my teachers, everyone around me made me feel that there is something. So even in self-doubt, there were three people who would come and say, you know what, hang in there, it would work out for you. Again, there are millions of voices who say you don't have it in
Right,
you.
right.
And it's up to you what you choose. It's your own faith. And I keep saying this, I have a saying in Hindi which I wrote it, I said, tum हीरे होगे, चमकोगे तभी जब रोशनी तुम पर
I think you
पड़ेगी.
told this in Anupama's interview as
Yes,
well.
I just truly believe it. It's because you might have all the talent in you, but if the light doesn't fall on you, it's all waste.
Yeah.
And which is why it's so strange that there are so many comparisons happening between people, between actors. If an actor is with a filmmaker doing a film, getting the same script in the same time, yes, probably you can sit down and compare them. But there are different situations, circumstances, directors, stories, all of that. How can you compare actors? It's just beyond me.
Yeah, but then it also makes for a good story, right? It's also so
Absolutely.
that's how, because it's like this actor made this number and that actor made that number, and therefore, this actor is better than that actor. There are all these things happening. So that's kind of
But in that case, the stories are what making us delusional,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we lose the reality of it. But
Yeah,
you
yeah,
should know what
yeah,
it is.
yeah, yeah.
Especially as actors, I feel you need to have, because we do so much of real work, which is imagination. We need to have a major control over reality. We need to know what reality is.
When you do real work, and I was going to begin with another question, but I'll begin with this Laila Majnu question because you mentioned that reality. Now, there was this whole, PR thing that went out that, you lost a lot of weight and you stopped meeting other people, and you stopped using your phone because you wanted to imagine that you were in that world with Lela alone and you wanted to cut yourself off from other people. And that sounded a bit like a methody kind of thing to do. That reality became your reality for a while. I'm just trying to get a handle on how you maintain that reality along with the real reality of what Avinash Tiwary is like.
I truly believe that method or method acting has been abused. No one understands what it is.
Right.
Okay. I've been trained in New York Film Academy. I've been acting with, interacting with actors there, and I think everyone just has an interpretation of what it is. With Majnu, I didn't know how to do Majnu. I had no clue
Right.
what to do about it. I just remember that there was a situation where my director initially wanted me to be Hercules in the first half. In the second half, he wanted me to look like Majnu, and he said, "Build up your body, wear a ferran, and it won't come through." 17 days before the shoot, we realized, oh shit, this is not working. And I remember 4 o'clock in the morning, he's having a drink, and he's like, "I don't know what to do now. I don't know what to do." And I said, "Okay, I'll lose weight." Now, the attempt of losing weight, I think I ended up losing about 12 kgs in 17 days, which is a huge amount of weight in such a short span of time. Uh, in that process, I kind of figured out a few things. The isolation happened not by choice, but because you just would not eat, you did not feel like doing anything. You didn't feel like talking. Plus, we were in Kashmir, so anyways, the phone calls were, the network was an issue. You are in the mountains anyway. You don't have the energy to expend over anyone else. So everything that has been said is true, but it was not out of choice.
Okay.
It was not me saying, "Oh, this is my method of doing it," because I didn't know. You are
Right.
exploring. I think most actors tend to do whatever is required to get the shot.
Yeah.
That's the only method.
Right.
And I just went for that. So I realized that when I started losing that weight is when I kind of started discovering Majnu and what he would be, apart from the intellect or the
Right.
readings that I would have done. But in me, in my body, I started to feel him only when I started losing that weight. When I had nothing else but myself, is when you find the Layla in you, is where I discovered it.
There's an Adam Driver quote that says, acting is really about having the courage to fail in front of people. Do you believe in that?
I think it does take some courage to stand up in front of people. I'm still shit scared every time I'm in front of the camera. And especially in front of the camera, it's the crew that's your first audience. I keep saying that DOP is the first person who sees you through the lens. And it makes a huge impact to me if the crew is reacting to what is happening on set. Uh, I I say that I am as good as how the crew looks at me. If I look like a Majnu to the crew, I would be Majnu.
Right.
If I look like, say, Chandan Mehto to the crew, I would be that guy. But if I don't see it in their eyes, I become very restless. It's something that bothers me. I think I need to work on that myself, that it should not, nothing of this should affect me. But I think as an actor, you want that connect with the audience. And it does make me feel a little worried when I'm not able to connect to my crew or the audiences and I'm not getting the responses. The courage to failure would be because you attempting something, so you hope nobody attempts something thinking that I'm gonna fail.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So yes, the courage is to say, okay, I might fail, but I'm gonna take an attempt. And
Yeah.
it's every shot, everything that you do. It could be just looking back at you, and it can look really embarrassing and all of that. But you take that attempt. So yes, that courage is important. But I truly feel every performance an actor should thank their crew because they are the ones who really make them believe that they are who they are.
Right. And I brought up that courage quote because you said Chandan Mehto. In Khaki, the Bihar Files, you're playing this fearsome gangster guy,
Yeah.
which is this very un-Avinash Tiwary role
Yeah.
because, we've never seen you like that.
Yeah.
So that was the courage I was talking about. Ki, when this role comes, you're like, I'm sure one part of your mind would have thought, will I be able to pull this off? And the other question that might have come to your mind is, will people accept me in this?
Yeah.
How did you talk yourself through those two things?
I remember I was reading, I think the second episode, and I read it and I felt, oh, this is exciting. Yeah, I want to do it. By the time I finished, it was 8 episodes earlier, and by the time I finished the whole script, I was like, no, 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 this is not for me. This is not, I think this is not for me. I just started feeling that. And I tend to share my scripts, some of them with my dad. He's also retired now, so he nicely sits down and reads, and it's just entertainment for him. And he read it and said, listen, this is not for you. Straight off, because we are from Bihar, so he has an understanding of things. And I think once he said that, that became a slight impetus to give it a try. But again, I was trying to speak to Bhav and Neeraj sir. And it's those guys who really filled in the confidence bit of it. Made me believe that I could pull this off because I was not very sure of it. Also, I had apprehensions of what would the consequence of this part, like even now people are, listen, you have done this, but now don't, everyone is just looking at you like that. And those are fears that, I mean, these are 20 years back fears. These fears were existing 20 years back, and if you're still living with this, then we haven't moved on in life.
Right.
So I had to let go of that first off. Say, I'm an actor and I want to do this and I go
Right.
for it. But how to do it and am I capable of was taking a little bit from me. Even when we were about to start, I was not sure. The first day of shoot, I still remember getting out of my vanity and I just sat down in my get-up and I'm like, am I really there? Am I there? Am I there? And it's only when I started mingling with people there, when I started feeling that I have a few pictures, I'll probably show it to you. When I started sitting there, I realized, oh, I am like one of them. And then it started flowing to me that I can probably do this. So yes, there was this fear initially, and it did take some courage to say, okay, I'll pull this off. I can do this. And thankfully, I had a very good director along who could just hold my hand and say, you go for it. That's it. Go for it. You'll be able to pull this off. And so, with courage, you need someone to hold your hand.
And that's Neeraj Pandey you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Neeraj Pandey and Bhav Dhulia.
Yeah.
Neeraj sir actually built in a lot of confidence for me. That's one thing that if somebody asks me what Neeraj sir's contribution for Khaki with me would be, I think it's his words that made me feel that मैं इतना अच्छा actor हूँ क्या मतलब
What were his words?
I sat down and remember blushing through. I don't remember the whole conversation, but he was sitting there and said, Avinash, there would be a lot of people who would have said this to you, that you have it in you and all of that. And I certainly think so. I think you have tremendous possibilities. And you're just getting started. We have just scratched the surface. And these are words you've been doing acting for so many years, and you're wanting to reach out to filmmakers like Neeraj Pandey, who now are sitting in front of you and saying these things. I remember telling you, I said, listen, I'm going to go and call my parents and let them know that this is what you think about me. I am sure they'll be very happy and proud.
Especially your dad who said you can't
Yeah,
do it.
he was the most, when he saw it, he came and he said, I got goosebumps, and he came and hugged me. I really want to see it now because I've seen just 3 episodes of the show
Okay,
yet.
all right.
I haven't seen it. I don't know if they're saying what they're saying is really that good, or it's just a father trying to hype up his son. But yeah, he was pretty impressed, and I'm glad. I'm glad because they're getting a lot of calls they're from Bihar, getting a lot of calls from UP and Bihar, and people have reached out and saying, oh, how did he get such nuances? So it's a happy home right now.
Right. Are you able to watch yourself and then kind of, because some actors choose not to do that, some
Yeah.
actors do that, because some actors say, oh, when I see myself on screen, all I see is the mistakes and not the other stuff. But
Yeah.
are you able to do that?
I think I don't even have a distinction of this is a mistake and this is not. What does happen is so many times that I've said, and people have reacted very differently to it, and something that I thought, oh, this was so nice, and no one gives a shit. So I've realized that my understanding, I do not have the wisdom to analyze my performances.
But you maybe can feel it.
Yes. So what does really happen to me, and this is what I've said this to myself: if the world says this is amazing and you don't, do not believe the world. And if you think this is nice and the world doesn't believe it, stay with
Right.
it. And that becomes the most important thing. So that's where it is. Your judgment about your work, how does it come together, is most important. But at the same time, I would say I don't really understand it. So I allow myself the fact that Acha, the world has liked it and I am not liking it. I'm not very hard on myself, let's put it that way.
Right.
But yes, I back myself with my ideas of how I am, what I think of the work and the overall work. As long as the performance is in sync with the world,
Right.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
It might not be great, but if it's part of the world that has been set up, I'm happy with that.
Right. So you waited a really long time, some 15, 16 years, when you were doing serials and other things, and you did Youth with Amitabh Bachchan and Anurag Kashyap, and you did a whole bunch of things, but nothing really clicked until, people really saw. I mean, of course, there was Tu Hai Mera Sunday, this lovely little film, but I think things really clicked when Laila Majnu happened.
Really?
And Tu Hai was also because it was an ensemble film, probably, like, I know you got noticed, but it was because it was like people probably said, oh, this bunch of actors are
Very
doing
good
great,
actors,
very good
yeah.
actors or whatever it is. But once you do that, like Laila Majnun, once you get your own space as a hero, a solo hero, which is probably what you've been working towards all this time.
Yeah.
I know it's a different world today, and people do all sorts of things. But once that people get that slot of being the top person in a movie, either the hero or the heroine, they rarely step back and say, let me do a bulbul, probably even a khaki. I don't know, like an antagonist or whatever it is. Though, like we have actors doing that. So this is not about why you did that, but because this industry tends to slot people into certain thing, is there the fear that अरे इसको अविनाश को बुलाओ because वो कुछ भी करेगा, as opposed to, oh my god, this role, Avinash won't do because he's a hero, and is there the chance that people might take advantage of the fact that you like acting as opposed to wanting to always be the hero?
I wouldn't mind people reaching out for every part that they think and allow me to make the choice.
Is that right?
I wouldn't have any issues with that. What actually happens is I've Bulbul, the girl on train, and we are in that phase of our society where we talk about female-centric films and female-driven films. I still don't know what all that means, but and so I did Bulbul and the girl on the train, and suddenly these were the voices that I heard, so every female-led film was kind of being thrown around, and I suddenly realized that but I don't have much to do, and the conversation went on to how it used to be earlier, where the girls did not have enough to do, and I felt nothing has changed. Though when I say this, a lot of people get upset, but this is what happened with me. Every script that I read, I felt there wasn't enough for me. And you take a step back and you realize, oh, this is what is actually happening, that you've been put into these slots. Cut to, I have a khaki, which is absolutely
Yeah.
different. Cut to, I'm doing something else. And I suddenly realized that, Avinash, what is beautiful here, that you have so many colors to you that they cannot put you in one.
Right.
You know, they cannot, you're the white light which refracts into 7 colors. And that's how I want the world to look at
Right.
eventually.
Right.
Because that's what I have backed myself all these years, saying that I have the range to do, go from here to there.
Right.
And I want to live the whole bandwidth. So it doesn't matter. You think of me as blue, you think of me as red, and it's all cool with me.
Right.
As long as I choose what I want to be at that point of time.
Right. I think maybe that's what's the most important thing. It's
Absolutely.
that the choice is still yours. Whatever
Yes.
people look at you as.
But that has been always the case. Even in the time of so-called struggle, it's not that I had to do work out of desperation. Yes, there were limited choices, but I could make a choice and I could say no to things. And it's up to all people who are aspiring. I think you will have a choice. What you say no to defines the character more than what you say yes to. And that's what's driven me until now.
Right. So even when you were doing Doordarshan serials, there were serials that you wanted to do, and not just key. I've got this
So
opportunity.
I'm saying these are the things that have come, and there might be 3 other opportunities that might come. I will choose the best that's available. Yes, because you have to earn your bread and butter. But there were always 4 options available.
Right.
They were in their own spaces, but they were available to me. In fact, the first DD show that I got, that very day, I got 2 other films as well. You know, and I had to make a choice of what to do. 3 projects on the same day out of nowhere, and you choose one thing. Even with Laila Majnu, I got Inside Edge. I remember I got Kaidi Band and Laila Majnu. All these 3 at the same day, and I had to make a choice. And you made a choice. That's my start of film, right, Laila Majnu? But I had 3 options at that point of time straight on.
Right.
So the options have always been there. But I think the choices, as long as I am making the choices without any other reasons, now the beauty is that you're not just thinking about bread and butter.
Right.
You're also thinking about your career, which I always did very honestly. But you know, there's more to it. Now you want to expand and reach out to the world. Now my desire is to reach out to people.
Right,
That
right.
my work is seen, and if that happens, I'll be very, very happy.
When you quit engineering and you started learning acting under Barry John or in New York or whatever it is. So there's this question that I have that a lot of people learn acting in a studio or theater or whatever it is. How does that help in film acting, which is a slightly different beast in many ways?
So I mean, I was doing theaters for 2 years before I went to Barry John. In fact, I was said no to very respected teacher, Pandit Satyadev Dubey. I had reached out to him. He said, "No, I can't teach you."
What?
It given he had a note and he said, "Read this 200 times and come back." And it's one of the most negative pieces that I have read in my life. It started off saying, "इस देश का हर आदमी एक्टर बनना चाहता है." ठीक है, and I had to do 200 times. I think I did about 70, and I called him and I said, "Sir, हो गया है." And I reached out to him and I said, if he's going to be my teacher, I don't want to lie to him. I don't want to start, on that note. And I told him, sir, I've only read it 70 times. He said, he took that paper. He said, वैसे भी acting कर रहे हो, सीख जाओगे. And he left. He just said, I can't do it. I reached out to Barry John. I wanted to go to RADA at that point of time. And he said, theatre कितना किया? मैंने बस सर अभी theatre करो, film करो, TV करो, उसके बाद choose करो what you want to do. I can't teach you for this. And then eventually I went again and he took me on board. After that class, I remember him saying this one thing, that this is a craft that you will learn by doing.
Right.
Okay. And did not make much sense to me. I was 19. I said, now I have to go to New York Film Academy. The beauty of New York Film Academy was I was facing camera from the very first day. So that kind of gave me a lot of comfort for film acting. I came back and I've only realized that every day, I've been doing it for 18, 20 years. Every day there is a shot put and I'm like, how do I do this? I still don't know, and you've been learning. Of course, there are basics that are there, but how do I really bring in, how do I do this in this part, in this character? I'm still trying to figure out.
Right.
And it's an ongoing process. So I don't think there is a learning that has happened. It's an ongoing learning. Yes, you do need to know your basics of how do you stand in front of the camera, how do you face it, how do you bring on the, what are your ways of bringing your honesty into work. But rest of the other things are constant, ongoing.
Now, assume that you were not in a position, let's say financial position, to go to New York, or you were not in a position to go to Barry John. That line that you said, that this is a craft that you learn by doing, that would have still applied?
I think it's the aspirations that makes the difference here.
Right.
I still remember when I said New York Film Academy, not that my dad said he had the money. He said, I don't. And I said, okay. And I said, I'll find. So I did something very stupid. I started calling all his friends and saying, Uncle, give me the money, I'll come back and return it to you. So my dad was very embarrassed. But I mean, you start finding ways to do what you want to do.
Right.
As long as it really drives you. The most important thing for anyone would be the aspirations that they have. How strong is the desire? The rest of the things would follow. Rest right from the money to getting opportunities to find your ways. People have gone to theaters and said, "I just want to stand.
Right.
I just want to do backstage. Be there, be there, be there, be there," and then suddenly you get one opportunity to stand on stage and you crack it. So it's about how strongly, one, you believe in yourself and what your desires are. Thankfully, both these things were really, really strong with me.
Right.
My aspirations were very high and my faith in myself was very high. Rest, it took a lot of time and still taking a lot of time.
But I'm saying, is there also, like by going to classes, is there also this, when people say things like, I learned how to lose my inhibitions and all that, is that also something or did you already have that inside you?
No, I still feel I'm a very inhibited person. That's a personality thing. That has nothing to do with the actor. And I make that distinction very clear. There's an artist, there's a person, there's a professional. We just look at actors as artists, and that's the only segment that we cater to. And I want to change that perception. There's a person, there's a professional. You do certain things just because it's important for your profession. Nothing to do with the artistry inside. There are things that you do with just for the artist. Personally, I am not someone who is very uninhibited and out there in the world. I like to have my own space in a cocoon. But if a part needs it, I will go out and open because that's my job. That's what's going to give me my bread and butter. So yes, I had to work through that. I had to, even today, I find it, every time I'm walking onto a stage, though I've been doing it for such a long time, I feel like I have to break through an invisible wall because I find it takes that kind of effort for me to. And initially when I used to share this, people would say, maybe this is not for you, that you have to take it, it's not organically coming through. And there's so many views points that people have, and it's so bizarre. I just feel that most of the wisdom that we have is mythical. It just someone has said something out of their experiences and they think the world will go on with it. But yeah, so it does make a difference when you are part of a group, you're doing your training, you're 15 people, you're trying and doing things, and it's the energy that kind of lets you open up and free. I think that's one of the most important things that would have happened for me. All the acting workshops, I want to really credit it. At least, if nothing else, it has opened me up to see different views and look at different people and how they are struggling and what are their problems and how they break through out of it. Like in New York, I had people from all over the world. I think there were 15 people in my classes, and someone's from Russia, from Egypt. And at the age of 19, when you see such diversity, people don't know the language properly, and they're all trying to find a way to reach out. Right. As an actor, emotionally, it's a great learning.
Right.
It's something that stayed with me even now, and it just makes you more tolerant. It makes you more adaptable. And what else does an actor need but this?
Is there a part that comes closest to who you are as a person and one that is furthest away? I'm assuming the second category would be the khaki character.
Well, I think now I feel it's much closer to me.
It is.
I think it's very difficult to say this is who you are because
Not exactly,
I know,
but yeah.
I have a thing that I keep saying that I'm all of it. I'm all of it.
That's and you did give the example of colors, like earlier.
Absolutely,
Yeah, yeah.
You are all of it. But Mumbai and the way I have lived my life, Rashid comes very close to me because I've been with those kind of guys. Those guys have been my friends. You're sitting there, all that is happening. I think Rashid comes very close to.
This is Tu Hai Mera Sunday.
Tu Hai Mera Sunday. More chilled out, laid back, fun. Of course, there are different phases of your life, but I would relate more to it's my college. days, and I think I would be more closer to that.
Now, in the middle of all this, you exercised another skill when you dubbed for Jam Ravi and Ponniyin Selvan. Had you done dubbing earlier?
I yeah, the dubbing. I mean, not for other languages. I have done voiceovers in English, Hindi, but not for films. I want to tell you a strange story. So Bijoy Nambiar, I'm working with him, and for something he asked me to record poetry. So I write poetries and I also record it. So he had heard it probably, and he just made me record it for his audiovisual that he had created, and I recorded it. He probably showed it to Mani sir, and Mani sir was like, "This is what I'm told. I don't know what you're trying to say, but will your hero dub for my hero?" And Bijoy sir called me, and I was sleeping at time. I was taking a nap. I was just so happy that your work from nowhere has reached someone, and they have called you for that. It just made me so happy because there's no way that Mani sir knows who Avinash Tiwary is, and it's just your work that has reached, and just your voice, and said, "Chola Chola Raga." I'm like, yes, I would love it. I was very ecstatic. It was almost like getting the film. I felt like that, and then I went for the dubbing, and he would be on call, trying to say little here and there, and I had fun. It was different for me because the language has a different rhythm. I've
Right.
never done that, and we had 3 days to do it. Also, I wanted to look like I'm a pro at this. So yeah, the first day was slightly. I think the first 3-4 minutes was off, and then it just
You
started flowing.
clicked.
Yeah, yeah.
So was that like exercising a different acting muscle?
I think it was more like listen and deliver, find a rhythm for the part. That was the only thing that because the language has a different rhythm. Now I had to find a rhythm for Hindi, and with the stature that he has, um, that was the only thing that I had to, which you don't do while you're acting because it's more fluid. Here you're just trying to do everything through a voice.
Right.
So yeah, I think there was an exercise for sure.
Right.
I think it would help me in future also with other parts that I do.
Right.
There's something that I learned there for sure.
Yeah, because just like you said, because usually your voice comes out of your own body.
Right.
Whereas here there's a little otherworldly because you're trying to channel your voice through somebody else's physicality.
Yeah.
And that was what I was kind of trying to see how that felt for you.
And the problem was which base should I use? Like, where should I be for this part?
Right.
And those decisions are being made by other people. I might want it different, and because he's a man of such stature, we chose a certain rhythm and bass for him, and people have liked it.
Nice.
People who have heard around, they've said that they've enjoyed it.
I think for the longest time people didn't know this.
No, nobody knows it because I also don't go out talking about things, and that's one thing Lasso was telling me that I should. But yeah, probably now I'm gonna start doing that more.
Yeah, and you're talking about your PR, by the way, just because sometimes people mention names and people listening don't know who
are
this
these?
person
Yes.
is. Yeah, so this question is as a person who's been under a lot of training and knows different styles of acting, if you had to choose 5 performances, which would they be? Your 5 favorite performances? I know you have like hundreds of favorite performances, but if you had to choose 5, whether Indian, foreign, whatever.
Wow. So I'll talk about performances that have stayed with me.
Right.
And In the Name of Father, I still remember as a kid I was very very taken aback by Johnny Depp's scissor hands. It just looked like how can a human being do something like this. Irfan Khan, I need to choose whether I liked him more in Haider or in Hasil. I'm still not sure. Manoj Bajpayee in Satya is what I remember of. There are 4, is it? One more?
You don't have to complete it,
I
but
can
tell
keep
me
going
this:
on.
what is it about Irfan Khan and Hasil that stayed with you? Because from an actor's perspective, I'd like to hear how you evaluated their performance, or rather, what you took away from their performance.
So, it's also when you see the performance. When you're seeing the performance, you're not looking at him, कि acting में इसने क्या किया है. I think there are performances that you look and you're like, there's no one else who can do it.
Right.
There's no one else who can do it. He's got something of his own and made that world very, very different. Like for Khaki, I can say, Ashutosh Rana, I'd read the script. I can never in my life imagine the way he played it. Never. It was beyond my imagination scale. That just takes you and inspires you that how could you see something like that? So for me, Irfan's performances are like that. When you read it on paper, I'm sure it would not be what you have seen. And you've just taken it tenfolds. Small actors like me, we just try to ensure कि script level पे ना at least what is conveyed in the script reaches out to
You're
the
being very
audience.
modest.
I'm being
So-
very honest to you.
You're
That's
being
my
modest,
attempt.
yeah, okay.
If it gets better, I have to give the credit to the director because my attempt is only to get the validation from the director.
Right.
He's the one telling the story. He knows what he wants to say, and if I'm able to deliver what he needs in the shot, I'm happy.
Right.
That's the only validation that I care for because the rest of the people don't even know what's happening there.
Yeah.
You know, you might like the performance, you might not like it, but it's the director who's doing it.
Yeah.
So I just feel amazed by people who are able to just take it to a point where you just, how is this being done?
Right.
And which is why when I say Daniel Day-Lewis and Johnny, these guys would just transform themselves.
Yeah.
So I initially found acting to be miraculous. You know, that's what I've. मैं हमेशा शुरू में बोलता था कि मैं नया करिश्मा लाया हूँ आपके लिए, ये देखिए. You know, that's what I would want with my. I used to. I don't know if I still want it, but I used to want that. कि listen, this is what I'm doing now. Next, see.
What can I do?
See what I can do now. I think that is what has amazed me in performances, and I hope somewhere there'll be someone sitting saying, "Hey, this guy has amazed me." If that happens, I'll be very happy.
You know, somebody who came from outside the industry and who's, I would say, made it. What would you say to people, you know, and I'm asking this on behalf of actors from all over the country who are trying to break into the industry. If you had to give advice, what would you say?
First, reality check. How you do that is up to you to find out. You need to, if you have to go and ask someone, should you do it or not? Don't. Your worldview is what makes the artist in you. How you look at the world. You might have all the skill and craft in the world, but that is what makes the artist in you. Hang in there, because the clock strikes 12 twice in a day. Just hang in there. Yeah, there are things that I can think of.
Can you
right now.
just expand on that worldview point for you? How did your worldview influence
I
your
think-
acting? I'm trying to get a grasp of that.
I think everything that you read, every conversations can have interpretations, right? And when you are open to various perspectives, when you have seen the world and you say, "Oh, this is how I see," but 5 people in the room are seeing it differently, that becomes a great growing process for you. And the fact that you have 5 viewpoints gives you 5 options of doing that line when you're doing it. You know, I'm just very.
Yeah.
It just gives you, oh, I can do it this. There are 5 ways of looking at it. And I think that becomes very, very essential for an artist, that you can just look at things in a different way. I think this will be slightly boasting of me, but I used to say that, you know, I've worked so much on the craft that probably I can. And when I say craft, it is how you say what you have to say. So I probably now know how to say what I want to say. But as an artist, you need to discover what you want to say.
Right.
And probably that's my new excitement, that I want to figure out what do I want to say through my work. Is there anything I want to say through my work? I don't know yet.
And I don't think it's boasting because, you know, you have chosen this craft, you worked on it for a long time, this acting or whatever it is, and you've arrived at a certain point. So there's a lot of wisdom that you've acquired along the way. So you're just sharing that. You're probably not good at 100 other things.
Absolutely.
So, you know, so I don't think,
Yeah.
you know, talking about the one thing that you're good at or the 2 things that you're good at is really boasting. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing your vision with me, and it was fascinating. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.
Yeah.
Experience 10 days of Grand Europe trip for easy EMI of Rs 25,000 only with GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
Wonder Diamonds, South India's largest lab-grown diamond brand, stores at Chennai, Coimbatore, Bangalore and Hyderabad.